Welcome to week 6 of Explore the Bible. Excited about this week getting into Genesis chapter 30. I'm just going to tell you, it's a weird chapter. It's the whole thing. You need to read the whole chapter because it will just show you kind of the weird stuff. We'll kind of talk about how to understand some of this thing, some of the things that we find in this chapter. Before we look at that, if you haven't already, subscribe. If you haven't hit that little button, you need to hit that. But it's not hard. Just tap that your mouse, your finger, whatever. Tap that little button to subscribe. If you've got any hankering to like the video, hit the like button. We appreciate that. Comment. If you've got, tell us where you're watching from. If you've got a question, put it in there, and then share the video with others. Appreciate it if you do that. If you want to support what we're doing, you can go to this website here at give.exposedtochrist.com and support not only the teaching, but also the mission work that we're doing. All right, let's look at Genesis chapter 30. Now, look, we're jumping in here, chapter 30, verse 25, but you need to read the whole chapter, okay? You pick up here, you're going to miss a lot of this background of Jacob having children with Leah and with Rachel and with the handmaidens and the conflict that's going on with that. It's messed up, right? The whole thing is messed up. There's no other way to put it. It is also, it's a long time ago. And the way they did things, look, Scripture records what happened, does not endorse what happens because it records it. Does that make sense? Just because the story is in there doesn't mean that everybody in the story is living right, doing the right thing, honoring God in all their actions. Even those people who, like Jacob, wants to honor God, but as we'll see in this tale, there's a challenge for him in all of this, right? There's a challenge. Okay. After Rachel gave birth to Joseph, this would be the 12th child, Jacob said to Laban, or 11th, "Send me on my way so that I can return to my homeland. Give me my wives and my children that I've worked for, and let me go. You know how hard I've worked for you." All right, he's been there a long time. You go back and read the story. He wanted to marry Rachel. Laban told him, work 7 years. You can marry. He worked 7 years. Laban switches out, gives him Leah. He gets mad. He says, I want Rachel. Worked 7 years. So 14 years just to get the wife that he wanted. So he's been there a long time working for him, right? But Laban said to him, well, if I've found favor with you, stay. I've learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you. Then Laban said, name your wages and I will pay them. Okay. We see from the way that Laban treats Jacob in the very beginning, the way that he treats his daughters, Laban is not a man who honors the Lord, who has any desire to be God honoring in his life. We see this, and even this, he says, I've learned by divination. Well, okay, he's not praying, he's not talking to God, he is, using what we would call maybe today occultish methods. But even in this occultist methods, he finds out that he has been blessed. The Lord has blessed me, okay? So he says, I don't want you to leave, I want you to stay because the Lord has blessed me because of you. In other words, I've gotten a lot. Name your wages. Okay, he's got 2 daughters, scores of grandkids, 10, I guess it is actually. He's got all these grandkids, but what he wants, 11, what he wants is the money, right? All this stuff that he has. Take the kids, take the grandkids, but I need you to stay because you name your wages. Tell me how much and I'll pay it, right? So we get an idea about who Laban is. But I want you to see something else here that I think is important for us to acknowledge. He does recognize that the Lord has blessed him because of you. So he recognizes that Yahweh has blessed him, and not because he has been serving Yahweh faithfully, but because Jacob has been there. So he understands that because Jacob is here, my life has been better, and I have become very wealthy. This is one of those things about the world is better off when believers are in the world. When the church is here, the world is blessed. And I've seen this just in mission stuff around the world. I've been to places where there's not much of a church presence, and you feel that. And you see where God is in the church, and you see how that impacts other people. Those other people may not have come to a place like Laban where they understand why it is, But they are blessed because the church is there. Believers are there. They have been greatly blessed. That their life is better off because of the presence of the church. And what's interesting is that most people never understand that. In fact, what we see today is people trying to push the church out as if the church has been the problem, keeping them, holding them back from living their pagan life. And yet what they don't understand is that if the church wasn't here, if the church hadn't exerted its influence over a long time, right, centuries, then their life would be so horrific. And they would not have the enjoyment of freedom, of liberty, of wealth, of generosity in the community. Look, most hospitals started by the church. Most colleges and universities, especially early on, started by the church. Education, all of that comes from the presence of the church. And it is a terrible problem for people who enjoy the benefits of living in a place where the church is influential and yet don't acknowledge where those benefits have come from. Laban at least acknowledges the Lord has blessed me because of you, not because of me. He's got that going for him, right? Okay. So Jacob said to him, well, you know how I've served you and how your herds have fared with me. And you had very little before I came, but now your wealth has increased. The Lord has blessed you because of me. And now when will I also do something for my own family? And Laban asked, well, what should I give you? What do you want? Jacob says, when do I get to do something for my family? And Laban says, well, what should I give you? And Jacob said, well, you don't need to give me anything. If you do this one thing for me, I will continue to shepherd and keep your flock. So he says, I just have one request, really. It's pretty simple. I'm not asking for a lot, just this one thing. And so, what is this one thing? Let me go through all your sheep today and remove every sheep that is speckled or spotted, every dark-colored sheep among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the female goats. Such will be my wages. In the future, when you come to check on my wages, my honesty will testify for me. If I have any female goats that are not speckled or spotted, or any lambs that are not black, they will be considered stolen. Good, said Laban. Let it be as you have said. So, the deal that he makes with Laban is, I'm going to go through your sheep, and I'm going to take out the speckled and spotted, the dark-colored sheep among the lambs, spotted and speckled among the female goats. And that'll be my wages. That's all I ask for. And I'm out of here. And Laban says, great, right? I like this. Let it be as you have said. But he says this because the reason he makes this deal is, the sheep were white. So in Laban's mind, he's thinking, well, this is a small number of sheep and that he's going to take. All right, I'll keep all the good ones. He's got other thoughts in mind. We'll see that. All right. But Jacob's saying, what he's saying to him is, in the future, you can check, and my honesty will testify for me. Now, for us, that's got to be kind of funny, right? He's going to say his honesty will testify to him because what's Jacob's, he's the deceiver, right? And for him at this point to fall back on his honesty probably shows that there was something very sincere that happened for him. We saw a couple of weeks ago when the Lord blessed him, this was a real deal for him. And that he is doing his best to be a different person because of what God has done in his life. So he's saying, I'm going to be honest about this. So that you look and you find one that's not speckled or spotted, well, that one's got to be yours, right? Because I said I'm only taking the speckled and the spotted, and they're going to breed speckled and spotted, so you'll know, right? So you need to understand also that this is taking place over a period of time. This is not go through them today, look at them, and then I'm out of here tomorrow kind of a deal. This exit will take time, okay? So that's the deal they make. Now, look, we're here in verse 41, but right here we were in verse 34. What's happened in between? You need to read this, because what's happened in between is that Laban told his guys, I need you to go through the flocks today. Pull out all the speckled, the spotted, all the dark colored, and take them 3 days away. Get them out of here. So when Jacob goes to look at the flock, all he's going to see are those who are pure white, and he's not going to have anything, and so they're just going to breed pure white. So no matter how long he stays here, that's all he's going to end up with. Okay, so now we get to verse 41. Whenever the stronger of the flock were breeding, Jacob placed the branches in the troughs in full view of the flocks, and they would breed in front of the branches. Okay, he would take these branches and peel the bark off them, and then he would put them there when they drank, and then when they were breeding, right, and where they could see them. Now, what is this, right? He placed the branches in the troughs and where they were feeding and when they were breeding, right? And as for the weaklings of the flocks, he did not put out the branches, so it turned out that the weak sheep belonged to Laban and the stronger ones to Jacob. And the man became very rich. He had many flocks, female and male sledges, and camels and donkeys. Okay, so here was his deal. When the strong ones come along, I'm going to put these branches in front of them, and then they're going to breed these striped branches. They're going to breed striped and speckled, right? When the weak ones are there, I'm not going to put them there, so they're going to breed white, which is what they all normally do. Okay, and then that's what happened. So he put the branch in front of them, and they became speckled or spotted, or they didn't. That's a little crazy, right? Except, look at this in chapter 31. This is him recounting what happened. And he says, when the flocks were breeding, I saw in a dream that the streak-spotted and speckled males were mating with females, that he had this dream about what was going to happen, that the Lord shared with him in a dream. He's had those dreams before, and he goes on here to talk about where what appears to be some kind of a crazy, deceptive plan that he can somehow put this stick in front of them, and that will cause them to breed speckled and spotted instead of white. Look, I think that God told him in this dream, showed him in this dream what to do. And so then when he did it, the lambs came out that way, not because of the branch, even though maybe that was some tradition or some ancient old wives' tale, I don't know. But it was certainly the Lord's plan that he would then have this. Laban was the one being the deceiver, right? He took them all thinking, well, I'm good now. But the Lord, through the obedience of Jacob, who maybe even Jacob thought, this is crazy. Why in the world would I do this? Is not going to work. I don't know what he knew about genetics, but it shouldn't work. But because the Lord gave him this plan, he was obedient to the plan, and then the Lord bore fruit for it for Jacob. And so that Jacob became very wealthy. This was his obedience to what may have felt like the craziest thing. Now, has God ever told people to do things that seemed crazy? Like Gideon with the fleece, or maybe Joshua walking around the city of Jericho 7 times blowing the horns? You can think about multiple times when the Lord laid it on someone to do something that, as we look at it, just seems crazy. But they did it obedient, and the Lord revealed himself. All right. I think it's a great story. It's kind of a weird story, but that's kind of how I see this, that there was this plan that the Lord had for him. He had a plan. He was working through the life of Jacob. Jacob is changing, and the Lord is blessing him. All right. Thanks for watching. Be sure and subscribe, comment, like, share with somebody else. We'll see you next time.